And welcome back, everyone. More now on this ongoing dispute, the seemingly never-ending one, over housing discrimination and settlements in New York's Westchester County. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the County Board of Legislators, they're offering up a possible third way, a solution to the impasse between the county exec and HUD. Now, they're offering to bypass Rob Astorino's office and have the board deal directly with the feds. And joining us to talk more about that possibility is Mike Koplowitz. Mike is the Democratic chairman of the Westchester Board of Legislators. And before I get to how the conversation went and also some of the possible challenges and also benefits to this, I talked to the county exec or to members of his staff, and they say, you know what? We've sampled the county, we've gone town to town. This is a remedy in search of a problem. We don't have a problem in Westchester County. And I read your editorial piece, and while you're trying to be compliant with this, do you agree that there is a problem that needs solving, or do you think there isn't?
The reason that I and we are weighing into this is because there is a solution as wide as the door I just walked in. The problem is, for other reasons, and I'm not sure nor will ascribe, the parties have not come to an agreement. So the Board of Legislators, in representing the county, because it's the county of Westchester that needs to comply. Is that the county executive? Is that the Board of Legislators? Is that both? So we can play a role. We're a co-equal branch of government. We make the policy actually for the county. I believe that there is plenty of ground to come to an agreement and that we can prove the point. I don't disagree with the basic intention. That is that zoning is not done by the county, it's done by the local municipalities. We're a home rule community. And secondly, that in the vast majority, and I would say with some tweaking in probably 100% of cases, zoning is not exclusionary. But the county executive's position has been just to state that, and frankly, a little bit like a 2-year-old, just kind of then kick his heels and say, I'm not going to comply, when in fact, if we simply go through the process, allow the monitor, this disinterested third-party objective, to do the study, to then work with the local communities as he's done and continues to do to modify any amendments that might be necessary. At the end of the day, guess what? We're going to have no exclusionary zoning, but during the process, I don't want to lose the community development block grant monies. I don't want to have Judge Coate, federal district court judge, find us in contempt. I don't want to be penalized. I don't want to be on the bad side of the ledger, and I don't think Westchester County needs to be the bad student. And
I want to get to the math in a second about the $5 million on top of the $7 million prior, but you and the board has basically been called a sellout from the county exec's office. The premise being, if you cooperate now, it's the equivalent of capitulation. You agree?
No. Well,
I guess you wouldn't say, oh, yeah, I'm a sellout, Rich, but yeah.
No, he's arguing sellout. I'm arguing buy-in. What I'm buying to is reality. I'm buying into the fact that we signed the 2009 agreement. We have to comply with that agreement within the four corners of that document.
Well, here's where I'm always confused.
No less.
I think I speak for the area. I said at the time, and I said this before, I was between Andy and Rob, the former county executive, and his opponent who beat him in November, in no small part because of this. It's not Rob's fault. Rob inherited the deal. He wasn't even an elected guy that had a vote in the thing. So I've never understood why the county exec could have blamed rightfully his predecessor for saddling him with this thing, but he's taken ownership of a deal that I don't see there's a way to win. Has HUD screwed the county exec and changed the deal and kept moving the goalposts, or is it the same deal it was in 2009? I can't figure this out.
Exactly the same deal. Rob, the old political adage is that you make up 3 envelopes. One is, you blame your predecessor, then you apologize, and then you make 3 more envelopes, right? What Rob should have done, what intellectually would have been appropriate, say, I didn't make this deal, but I'm going to live under the terms. I'm going to make it as least onerous as possible, and thank the monitor for coming, thank the federal government for coming, and get out from under this. That would have been the approach. And even now, when I and my colleagues have made this foray to HUD, we basically are inviting the county executive to join us, and he can still say, look, I get it. I still don't agree that there's any exclusionary zoning. I don't want to sell the county out. However, I'm willing to go through the process. But he lashes out.
I said the same exact thing. I said, you got a clock. We'll talk about the grants in a second. And I said, so Rob or Ned, whoever I'm talking to, why not just go along to get along on this? You're going to lose. You can't win. He said, time out. We went town to town, county to county, handle whatever it is. Nobody can find a problem. So what am I supposed to do? Make up a problem? Richard, I can't be in compliance and create an ascertainment here if there isn't a problem to find.
They're not correct, because the monitor has found 7 communities, in fact, that zoning is potentially problematic. But Mamaroneck has just corrected it. He's working with 2 other communities voluntarily. They're correcting it. He's working with 3 other communities. They're on the road to correcting. There's only 1 community that refuses to talk. They're playing the Rob Astorino strategy. But for that, Rob happens to be wrong. Rob's, a county executive. He is not a federal housing monitor. And so what we're asking him to do is, again, be flexible, go for the ride. Instead of lashing out, keep your options open, because there's so much at stake. And let's see what the monitor comes up with.
This has a math component. We talked about the suit with big numbers, but we're already seeing $7 million that have not gone Westchester's way through grants. We could be looking at another $5 million.
Another $5+ million in penalties from HUD with these community block development program grants. The county, HUD wanted to go and issue that penalty earlier in May, agreed to hold off until the beginning of June, in part because of what the board is offering as a possible solution or as a possible alternative.
To that point, Ned said just before, it's not really June. That was an arbitrary number picked out by HUD. It's really September. What is the date you lose the money?
There's an absolute drop-dead date, which is probably sometime in September, but they go through a process of reallocation. And so we're working with them. We got till June 9, and in fact, we need to go beyond. But here's what's important. Whether CDBG money comes in or not, we still have under the agreement the issue of, are we in compliance? If we lost every federal dollar through a community development block grant, which is what the county exec is saying, give it up, we're going to tax our own people, we're out of the program, you're still held to the 4 corners of the 2009 settlement, which says that you have to examine exclusionary zoning. And what he's failed to do is the racial test to determine whether there is exclusionary zoning. There is a very specific module that he refuses to do when you bore in on the reality of it.
You used the word realistic twice here today. And we understand there are several deadlines, and this is a very political process, and we know Astorino's position. But at the end of the day, from your perspective, what happens here? I mean, because from somebody like me that's on the outside looking at this, I don't understand all the intricacies and so on. But at the end of the day, what is your belief
and if
of what will happen?
Back to his question, I don't see politically, which is where we usually come down on this. Rob's already made the point to Long Islanders, hey, Westchester first, they're coming for you next year. He's made this a campaign issue. I don't see him as incentivized making this go away before November.
One of the things that I'm very cognizant of is that I work with 16 other colleagues, both sides of the aisle, and we've worked real hard to build up some political capital to make decisions based on what's best and what's real and what's reasonable, not on what party and letter you have. There are 2 paths to answer your question. The A path is that we can craft language at the county board level that 12 legislators can agree to save Westchester from going over the cliff. And if the 12 of us agree, then that's a veto-proof number. County executive can keep his position, but we find agreement. Second plan.
He said, by the way, again, the Astorino folks, that they don't think you have the votes for it. Right now, do you?
And I would urge, with language, I remain the eternal optimist. Politics is the art of making the impossible possible. And the B plan is that if colleagues want to take us off the cliff, over the cliff, lose our current monies, lose future monies, penalties and fines, there's going to be a majority of legislators who are not going to want to go off of that cliff, and we're going to work hard to try to expand that majority as much as possible.
Gut, what do you think happens?
The gut is that I've never seen a situation where you can't wordsmith and look for common denominators. There's enough common ground here. I said that before. There's enough common ground that with a modicum of reasonableness, colleagues, because my colleagues still have to run for re-election too. You want to go back to Peekskill and say, I single-handedly lost $285,000 of CDBG monies? All I had to say was yes, and nothing was given up. If I can deal with the issues of suing municipalities so that colleagues will know that's not going to happen, if I can take off or memorialize that it is work that the monitor's doing and we can get to a no exclusionary zone, if I can get to a point in language that says we're only doing 2009 settlement, no more, no less, now I'm meeting all the real concerns. At the end of the day, I can't do anything but dish up the compromise without compromising. It's up to colleagues at that point. My gut, I'm an optimist. I think we're going to pull this off.
Michael Kaplis, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, we come back, we'll switch gears from Westchester and talk some politics, including some back and forth about Hillary in a very contentious mayoral race in Newark. More on that after this.